In this video, I'm about to show you 40 ranch dressing brands you should never buy again and exactly why, along with 10 clean, high-quality options that are actually worth picking up, starting with number 40, Hidden Valley Original Ranch. Hidden Valley is the face of ranch dressing in America. Still, food formulators know it as the high emulsifier ranch base, a product built more from engineered stabilizers than actual dairy. Behind that creamy taste is a system of modified food starch, xanthan gum, disodium phosphate, and flavor-loaded oil emulsions designed to mimic buttermilk without the cost of real cultured dairy. Insiders say Hidden Valley relies on spray-dried dairy powders, which are processed under high heat that destroys natural enzymes and produces a dull, flat flavor. To make up for that loss, the formula uses flavor-boosting compounds that activate only when mixed with heat or saliva, giving a fake fresh ranch effect that tricks the brain. The signature tang comes from acidified preservatives, not real fermentation. At the same time, the thick texture is created through shear stabilized oil networks, plasticized fats that hold their shape even in warm temperatures. Long supply chains mean the product must survive months of storage, so Hidden Valley uses oxidation delay agents to keep oils from going rancid, but many consumers still report a chemical aftertaste. Number 39. Kraft Classic Ranch. Kraft's Classic Ranch is built on a system food scientists call flavored fat suspension, meaning the base isn't dairy. It's mostly soybean oil fortified with artificial tang compounds, salt enhancers, and stabilizing gums. Kraft uses enzyme-modified cheese powders to deliver a creamy aroma, but these powders are produced through chemical reactions that create exaggerated, unnatural flavor spikes. To keep the dressing shelf-stable for years, Kraft relies on propionic acid, sodium benzoate, and high-load emulsifiers that suppress microbial growth but also strip away natural taste. The creamy thickness doesn't come from buttermilk. It comes from gelatin systems that create the same texture you find in industrial sauces and spreads. A major insider concern is Kraft's use of heat-treated spice blends, which lose potency, requiring the company to compensate with aroma reintroduction oils, synthetic compounds misted into the batch to mimic fresh herbs. Because Kraft's ranch is formulated to stay smooth even after repeated temperature changes, it contains starch crosslinkers that prevent separation but give the dressing a slightly plastic mouthfeel. It's convenient and cheap, but it's also one of the most chemically engineered ranches on shelves. Number 38. Wishbone Ranch. Wishbone Ranch is heavily marketed as flavorful, but ingredient analysts know it as a high-acid, low-dairy ranch clone. The flavor is driven by acid-modified oils, a technique where oils are blended with sharp acidic compounds to create tang without real buttermilk. This gives Wishbone its intense sharpness, but also a vinegary bite that feels artificial. The dressing relies on synthetic herb aromatics, concentrated liquids that simulate dill, parsley, and chive notes. These aromatics are stable for years, but they create the infamous perfume ranch effect that many consumers notice. Wishbone uses double-layer emulsifiers, allowing the dressing to stay perfectly smooth even after sitting for months. These emulsifiers trap oil droplets inside starch gels, producing a thick texture that never separates but also never tastes fresh. Manufacturers also use UV-treated spices, which sanitize ingredients but degrade natural oils, forcing the product to depend on laboratory flavor boosters to mask dull herbs. Its creamy body comes from heated soybean oil polymers, not dairy, making Wishbone one of the most heavily engineered ranch formulations in the mainstream aisle. Number 37. Great Value Ranch. Great Value Ranch is one of the most aggressively cost-engineered dressings in the market. Food formulators inside private label manufacturing call it a bulk oil emulsion ranch because over 70% of the product's body comes from low-grade soybean oil stabilized with multiple emulsifiers. The dressing's thickness is not dairy-based. It's created using cross-linked starch gels, which swell in cold water to mimic buttermilk creaminess. Because Walmart demands massive shelf life, this ranch is blended with high-acid preservatives, EDTA chelators, and oxidation blockers to keep oils from turning rancid during long transport. These ingredients can leave what many consumers describe as a chemical, metallic aftertaste. Its herb flavor doesn't come from spices. It comes from spray-dried herb dust rehydrated inside the dressing. These powders are ultra-processed and often lose their natural volatile compounds, causing the ranch to taste flat unless enhanced with synthetic parsley and dill aromatics. To maintain its uniform white color, manufacturers also use UV-stabilized dairy powders, which resist browning under fluorescent supermarket lighting. Cheap? Yes, but structurally, it's a lab-bound oil gel, not ranch dressing. Number 36. Market Pantry Ranch. Market Pantry Ranch is designed as a clean-taste, low-cost dressing, but insiders in the condiment industry call it a high-water ranch, meaning the formula contains far more water than dairy or spices. To stop this watered-down base from separating, factories rely on heavy gum systems, primarily xanthan gum, guar gum, and cellulose gel, that create thickness artificially. The tang in Market Pantry doesn't come from cultured buttermilk. It comes from acidified whey blends and synthetic lactic acid, which deliver instant sharpness but a noticeably hollow flavor. Consumers frequently report the dressing turning runny or slimy after sitting in the fridge, a sign of weak emulsion stability. The herbs? Mostly reconstituted parsley flakes, stabilized with anti-caking agents and heat-dried until almost flavorless. To compensate, Target uses oil-dispersible flavor esters that mimic ranch's savory notes but leave a lingering bitterness once the dressing warms on food. Most concerning is the high sodium-to-fat ratio, which boosts flavor but also creates a harsh, salty punch. Overall, Market Pantry is a thin, artificially thickened ranch knockoff that tastes engineered rather than fresh. Number 35. Ken's Steakhouse Ranch. Ken's Steakhouse Ranch has restaurant-level branding, but food scientists know it as a heavy oil ranch blend, a formula where soybean oil dominates over any real dairy. The iconic steakhouse flavor is created by fermented seasoning bases and yeast-derived umami powders, not traditional buttermilk or herbs. To keep the dressing thick and glossy, Ken's uses dual-phase emulsification, a system that binds fats with both starches and gums, giving the dressing its heavy, almost gluey mouthfeel. Many customers report that the ranch tastes greasy, overly salty, or oily, especially when used as a dip, a sign of high oil load and low cultured dairy content. The herbs are encapsulated flavor capsules, tiny oil-coated beads that burst under heat, imitating a fresh herb aroma even though the product contains minimal real herbs. Because Ken's is sold in both refrigerated and shelf-stable versions, the formula is spiked with preservation acids, sorbates, and anti-separation stabilizers, giving the dressing a long life, but an unmistakably processed flavor. Despite its premium name, Ken's Steakhouse Ranch is not homemade style. It's a thick, oil-forward emulsion, built for durability, not authenticity. Number 34. Marie's Creamy Ranch. Marie's markets itself as a refrigerated, fresh-style ranch, but insiders know the cold case doesn't make it less processed. It simply allows for heavier fat systems that would separate at room temperature. Marie's uses high-fat soybean oil emulsions stabilized with propylene glycol alginate, a thickener normally used in commercial dessert toppings. This gives the dressing its silky texture, but also a slightly slippery mouthfeel that many consumers complain about. Because Marie's avoids shelf-stable preservatives, it instead leans on acidified dairy, where cultured buttermilk is mixed with vinegar and citric acid to intensify the tang artificially. The ranch's signature flavor comes from cold-soluble herb oils, which release aroma quickly when the dressing hits warm food, but these oils can oxidize fast, leading to a sharp, almost sour aftertaste near the end of their shelf life. Even though Marie's appears fresher, it uses enzyme-modified fat systems that keep the dressing thick even when diluted on salads. This gives great cling, but at the cost of tasting unnaturally rich and processed. Number 33. Newman's Own Ranch. Newman's Own markets itself as wholesome and charity-driven, but the regular ranch formula relies on a processing method insiders call acid-spiked dairy dilution. Instead of using full-fat cultured buttermilk, manufacturers blend low-solids dairy powder with water and sharp acids to create a fake tang. This gives a clean taste, but strips away the natural fat structure that makes ranch creamy. To rebuild thickness, Newman's uses multi-gum blends of xanthan, guar, and cellulose, designed to create an artificially smooth body. Because these gums interact with vinegar and egg yolk, the dressing often forms slimy, ropey strands when chilled too long, something consumers commonly complain about. The herb flavor seems fresh, but it's mostly delivered through encapsulated herb aromatics, tiny oil-based bursts engineered to mimic parsley and dill without using much real spice. Another insider concern is the oil-water separation resistance system, which includes stabilizers normally found in mass-market mayo rather than clean dressings. It ensures stability but creates the unmistakable processed ranch mouthfeel that Newman's tries to hide. Despite feel-good branding, the formula is still a thickened, acid-built ranch base, not real homemade style dressing. Number 32. Lighthouse Ranch. Lighthouse sells refrigerated ranch to look fresher than shelf-stable brands. Still, their regular formula uses high-fat soybean, canola blends supported by enzyme-modified dairy, a processed buttermilk alternative engineered to provide instant tang. This shortcut gives fast flavor but also causes the dressing to taste overly sharp or sour after a few weeks. To survive refrigeration cycles, Lighthouse relies on cold active emulsifiers that keep oil droplets suspended even as temperatures drop. These emulsifiers create a dense, almost buttery thickness that many consumers describe as waxy or coating on the tongue. Herbs are added as freeze-dried fragments, which look appealing but carry minimal volatile oils. The real flavor is built with concentrated ranch aromatics mixed in post-emulsion. Insiders note that Lighthouse uses fat plasticizing stabilizers that keep the dressing firm enough to cling heavily to vegetables and wings. These stabilizers make dip-style ranch look premium, but they also create a heavy, unnatural cling, unlike true, freshly made ranch. Lighthouse may sit in the produce section, but structurally, it's a cold-processed oil emulsion, not a fresh dairy-based ranch. Number 31. Kroger Ranch Dressing. Kroger's Ranch is one of the most aggressively cost-reduced supermarket dressings. Manufacturers use a technique called emulsified water maximization, packing as much water into the formula as possible, then rebuilding texture with modified starch gels. These gels swell into a pudding-like body, giving an illusion of thickness while keeping costs extremely low. Because real herbs are expensive, the flavor comes mainly from synthetic dill lactone compounds, a chemical blend used to mimic herb brightness without real parsley, dill, or chives. These compounds are stable but also produce a soapy aftertaste that many customers complain about. The dressing's creaminess is held together by gum lipid networks, where gums create microscopic cages that trap oil droplets and prevent separation. This keeps the bottle looking smooth but contributes to a rubbery, artificial mouthfeel. To preserve color, Kroger uses light stable dairy powders, which keep the dressing white but flatten the flavor. Kroger Ranch looks simple, but it's really a water-heavy, gum-thickened, chemically flavored ranch base, not a clean dressing. Number 30. Safeway Signature Select Ranch. Safeway's Signature Select Ranch seems premium but relies on budget-tier oil emulsions blended with rehydrated dairy solids. These solids are heat-treated before shipping, destroying delicate flavor compounds. To fix this, the formula uses synthetic buttermilk enhancers, lab-created acids, and volatiles designed to mimic fermented dairy. The herbs are mostly reconstituted herb particulates, dehydrated so aggressively that their natural oils evaporate, leaving only color. Flavor is restored using herb oil essence droplets, which dissolve on the tongue but leave behind a slightly perfumed artificial taste. Signature Select also incorporates preservation acids that maintain stability for long shelf life but contribute to a tang that feels sharp instead of creamy. The real issue? The dressing uses a two-phase emulsification system that creates an unnaturally thick texture but becomes gummy when cold. This causes the familiar gluey ranch texture consumers complain about in store brands. Safeway's version gives the appearance of quality but remains a processed oil and acid ranch substitute, far from real buttermilk ranch. Number 29. Albertsons Ranch Dressing. Albertsons Ranch uses a process manufacturers call white-base ranch formulation, where the starting mixture is essentially a bland, starchy white slurry made from water, soybean oil, and thickening agents. Only after building this neutral base do factories blend in ranch aromatics and dried dairy powders. Because Albertsons frequently switches suppliers, the product must tolerate ingredient variability. To achieve consistency, they load the formula with multi-layer emulsifiers that can handle different oil qualities and water ratios. These emulsifiers create a dense, almost pasty texture, especially noticeable when dipping. Herbs are mostly cosmetic flakes. Dried parsley, used for appearance, not flavor. All real taste comes from encapsulated seasoning oils that burst upon heating or mixing with food. The dressing often develops a harsh tang due to its reliance on citric acid and vinegar powder rather than real cultured dairy. Albertsons Ranch looks generic because it is a low-cost, thickened, artificially flavored ranch base designed for shelf stability, not taste. Number 28. Meyer Ranch Dressing. Meyer Ranch is built using a technique private label formulators call high bulk starch structuring. Instead of relying on real buttermilk, the base is mostly water thickened with acetylated starch gels that swell into a pudding-like texture. This gives Meyer Ranch its thick appearance, but also creates a grainy, gluey finish once it sits on cold foods. To compensate for weak dairy notes, Meyer uses acid-reactive dairy powders, which release tang only after emulsification. But these powders are notoriously unstable and often cause the dressing to taste sharp, sour, or metallic after a few weeks. Herbs? Mostly color flakes, dehydrated parsley with no real volatile oils left. The recognizable ranch flavor instead comes from synthetic dill aldehydes and yeast-based savory boosters, giving aroma but not authentic taste. Because Meyer demands extremely long shelf life, the dressing contains chelation agents to slow oil oxidation. These can create a back-end bitterness consumers often complain about. Overall, Meyer Ranch looks thick and creamy, but is fundamentally a starch-built, chemically flavored oil slurry, not a real ranch. Number 27. Hy-Vee Ranch. Hy-Vee Ranch dressing is created with a process manufacturers call cold thickened oil binding, where a diluted oil base is structured using gums rather than dairy. The formula uses sodium carboxymethylcellulose, a gum that traps water inside gel pockets, giving the illusion of richness, but also creating that wet, slippery texture many customers dislike. To achieve its tangy flavor, Hy-Vee uses a combination of vinegar powders and synthetic lactic acids, which hit sharply but lack the roundness of real fermented buttermilk. This produces a dressing that tastes hollow, overly acidic, and chemical when compared to higher quality ranches. The herbs are limited to freeze-dried microflakes, which are mostly visual. The real flavor comes from herb-simulating esters, lab-created compounds designed to mimic chive and dill but known to leave a faint, soapy or perfumed note. Because Hy-Vee rotates between multiple suppliers, they rely heavily on robust stabilizer stacks to maintain consistency, resulting in a dressing that feels gummy, artificial, and heavy, even in small amounts. It may look like ranch, but it behaves like thickened flavored oil, not real dairy dressing. Number 26. H-E-B Ranch Dressing. H-E-B Ranch is popular in Texas, but industry insiders refer to it as a preservation-heavy ranch base. Since it's manufactured in extremely large regional batches, the formula must survive long distribution routes. Because of this, H-E-B loads the formula with multiple preservative acids, thickening polymers, and EDTA compounds to prevent spoilage, oxidation, and color shift. The creamy mouthfeel comes not from dairy, but from oil phase stabilizers that turn soybean oil into a semi-solid matrix. This creates a very tight, almost sticky cling, making the dressing feel heavy and unnatural on salads. Its buttermilk flavor is largely created using fermented dairy analogs, powders processed in heated towers that destroy subtle dairy notes. The missing flavor is then replaced with synthetic buttermilk volatiles that can leave a chemical tang. H-E-B's herbs are mostly decorative. Real ranch character comes from encapsulated seasoning beads loaded with salt and dried aromatics. Despite the regional loyalty, this ranch is essentially a thick, preservative-driven oil gel, not a clean, fresh, dairy-based dressing. Number 25. Publix Ranch Dressing. Publix Ranch uses what food technologists call flare-layered emulsification, a process where the dressing's flavor is built in stages to compensate for a weak base. The backbone of the formula is water, soybean oil, thickened with cellulose gums that create a slippery, elastic texture instead of true creaminess. Publix uses citric vinegar hybrid acidification, which gives the ranch an immediate sharpness but lacks depth. This can cause the dressing to develop a twangy, sour edge after refrigeration, something many Publix shoppers have complained about. Herb notes come from volatile herb oils, not real herbs. These oils vaporize quickly when the dressing hits warm food, giving an initial burst but fading instantly, leaving the underlying blandness exposed. To maintain visual appeal, Publix adds light stable whiteners to keep the dressing bright white, even under fluorescent store lighting, another sign of heavy processing. Publix Ranch looks classy, but formula-wise, it's a stabilizer-thickened, acid-boosted oil dressing engineered for appearance, not authenticity. Number 24. Food Lion Ranch Dressing. Food Lion Ranch is built using a technique manufacturers nickname Budget Blend Ranch Formulation, where the dressing's main ingredient is water structured with high-viscosity modified starch. This creates thickness cheaply, but also gives the dressing a pasty, dough-like consistency when cold. Flavor is carried mostly by dry ranch seasoning mix, not fresh dairy or herbs. This mix includes synthetic tang enhancers, onion powder concentrates, and herb flavor compounds that imitate dill while containing almost no real dill. Because Food Lion targets ultra-long shelf life, The formula contains multiple preservative layers, benzoates, sorbates, and acidifiers, which prevent bacterial growth but also flatten the dressing's natural flavor profile. The oil used is basic commodity soybean oil, prone to oxidation. To mask this, factories use flavor shielders, compounds that cover off notes but leave a faint chemical bitterness in the aftertaste. This isn't creamy ranch, it's a low-cost, starch-thickened, seasoning packet oil emulsion built for survival, not taste. Number 23. Harris Teeter Ranch Dressing. Harris Teeter Ranch is a classic example of what formulators call a multi-phase stabilized ranch, meaning the dressing is built from several different emulsions layered together to maintain thickness, even though the base is mostly water. The main body comes from cold swelling starch polymers that hydrate instantly and create a thick, pudding-like texture without real dairy fat. The buttermilk flavor isn't cultured. It comes from enzyme-treated dairy powders whose natural notes are destroyed during heat processing. To fix the dull taste, Harris Teeter adds synthetic buttermilk volatiles and acid lactone compounds that give a fast but artificial tang. Herb flavor is carried by oil-dispersible dill aromatics, not actual herbs, which is why the dressing smells promising but tastes flat, a common customer complaint. To prevent oil separation on shelves, the brand uses dual gum stabilizers that create a tight emulsion but also produce a slightly rubbery cling on vegetables. The result? A dressing that looks premium but is really a thickened, acidified oil matrix engineered to survive long shelf cycles, not deliver real ranch taste. Number 22. Schnucks Ranch Dressing. Schnucks Ranch is created through high-dilution starch structuring, a process where the manufacturer dilutes the base with extra water, then rebuilds texture using pre-gelatinized starches and cellulose gum. These starches create density, but also leave the dressing with a grainy, starchy afterfeel that many Schnucks customers criticize. Because real buttermilk would destabilize their water-heavy formula, Schnucks uses acid-boosted dairy powders, a combination of whey solids and citric acid that mimics tang but lacks true fermented richness. This gives the dressing a sharp but hollow flavor that disappears quickly on the palate. The herb notes come from spray-dried herb particulates, aggressively dehydrated until only a faint vegetal scent remains. Actual flavor is delivered by synthetic chive and dill essences, which create a perfumed taste rather than a natural one. To maintain color, Schnucks incorporates light stable whiteners similar to those used in processed dips. Number 21. Giant Eagle Ranch Dressing. Giant Eagle Ranch is formulated using acidified oil suspension, meaning the primary structure is soybean oil emulsified with vinegar, water, and thickening gums. The dairy component is limited to reconstituted buttermilk powder, which undergoes high heat drying that destroys flavor, requiring the company to add synthetic tang enhancers to compensate. The herbs in Giant Eagle Ranch are freeze-dried microflakes, mostly visual. Most of the actual flavor comes from volatile herb esters, which create an intense aroma when the dressing is opened but quickly dissipate, leaving a bland, oily taste. To stabilize the product during long warehouse storage, Giant Eagle uses oxidation control additives and multi-layer preservative acids, which slow spoilage but contribute to a chemical bite consumers often notice. Its creamy texture is powered by gum starch fusion systems, creating a clingy, almost elastic consistency that doesn't feel like natural dairy. Overall, this ranch is a lab-built oil emulsion with very little real buttermilk character. Number 20. Wegmans Ranch Dressing. Wegmans Ranch is marketed as premium, but behind the scenes, it relies on a technique called emulsion densification, where a thin oil-water base is artificially thickened using cross-bonded starches. These starches create an excellent body, but also produce a paste-like mouthfeel when the dressing is chilled. Flavor development depends heavily on cultured dairy analogs, powders that imitate buttermilk but are processed in heated drying towers, flattening natural flavor. To rebuild taste, Wegmans adds herb-infused aromatic droplets, chemical flavor vehicles that mimic fresh herbs without using much real spice. Because Wegmans prioritizes ultra-clean appearance, the formula includes color stabilizers that keep the dressing bright white even after months in distribution. Its creamy feel comes from emulsion-lock gums, which create a smooth pour but also make the dressing feel artificially silky, almost slippery, something many consumers point out. Wegmans Ranch may seem upscale, but it's ultimately a starch-thickened, chemically flavored oil dressing, not the fresh, buttermilk-based ranch its branding suggests. Number 19. Big Y Ranch Dressing. Big Y Ranch is built using a method insiders call density-boosted starch ranch, a formula where thickness comes almost entirely from pre-gelatinized starches instead of real dairy. These starches swell rapidly in cold water, giving Big Y its thick appearance but also a chalky, gummy residue on the tongue. The buttermilk note is produced through acidified whey simulants, cheap powders treated with citric acid that create instant tang but a very short chemical finish. Because Big Y uses bulk spice suppliers, the herbs are mostly UV-treated color flakes, which retain green color but lose nearly all aromatic oils. Real flavor instead comes from synthetic dill lactone molecules, which give a perfume-like herbiness that feels artificial in salads. To stabilize the dressing in high-volume warehouses, manufacturers add multi-stage preservatives and oxidation inhibitors, which delay spoilage but often leave a metallic or bitter back-end taste. Big Y Ranch looks creamy, but structurally it's a low-cost starch pudding flavored with artificial herb volatiles, not ranch dressing. Number 18. Tops Ranch Dressing. Tops Ranch is produced using hydration-heavy ranch blending, meaning the formula is built around water first, then thickened with a dense stack of gums plus modified starches. This creates a body that looks rich but tastes thin, watery, and synthetic once spread. The tangy kick comes from spray-dried dairy acids, not buttermilk, giving Tops its sharp, almost sour zip that many customers say tastes chemical or fake. The herb layer is minimal. Most of the ranch flavor comes from herb-emulating esters that vaporize quickly, making the dressing smell stronger than it tastes. Actual parsley or dill is nearly non-existent and added mostly for appearance. Because Tops rotates co-packers, they use overbuilt stabilizers to ensure the formula behaves consistently, no matter the oil quality. This creates a rubbery cling to vegetables and pizza crusts. Number 17. Weiss Quality Ranch Dressing. Weiss Quality Ranch is known internally as a dual-phase gum ranch because the creamy body is created using two powerful gels: cellulose gum for structure, and xanthan gum for elasticity. These make a texture that feels thick at first but becomes slimy and ropey once refrigerated. Weiss uses acidified dairy-based powders, which give a fast punch of tang but lack roundness. To fix the flavor gap, the formula includes onion ester aroma boosters and dried garlic concentrates that create a strong upfront flavor but leave a bitter aftertaste. The herbs? Mostly reconstituted micro-herb specks, which add color but no scent. Real herb flavor is chemically recreated through volatile dill compounds. Because Weiss depends on long warehouse distribution, they incorporate high-dose sorbates and oxidation control agents, which keep the product safe but contribute to a sterile, artificial profile. Number 16. Ingalls Ranch Dressing. Ingalls Ranch is built using enhanced viscosity oil emulsions, where cheap soybean oil is thickened using gum networks to mimic dairy creaminess. This results in a texture that feels heavy, sticky, and borderline greasy, especially when used as a dip. The buttermilk flavor is mostly synthetic lactic notes boosted with vinegar powders, which create a tang that hits hard but fades instantly. Many Ingalls shoppers report that the dressing tastes flat but sour, classic signs of acid-built ranch without fermented dairy. To hide unstable oil flavors, Ingalls includes flavor masker additives typically used in low-end mayonnaise. These masks are rancid notes but leave a faint chemical smell when the dressing warms. Herb elements come from spray-dried herb dust, completely flavorless. Real taste is delivered through dill and chive aroma droplets engineered for shelf stability. Ingalls Ranch may look thick, but it's fundamentally a greasy oil and gum suspension with chemically constructed flavor. Number 15. Winco Ranch Dressing. Winco Ranch relies on extreme cost-cutting that leads to a formulation insiders call the commodity ranch base. It's made from bulk soybean oil, high-volume water, and cross-linked starch gels. These starches create thickness but leave the dressing with a paste-like, doughy texture when cold. The tang is generated through acidified whey simulators and vinegar powders instead of real buttermilk. This creates a sharp, metallic sourness that tends to overpower salads. The herb layer is mostly decorative, heat-treated dried parsley that carries almost zero taste. Real ranch notes come from synthetic dill aldehydes, which smell like fresh herbs but taste overly sharp. To keep costs down, Winco uses single-stage preservatives and minimal antioxidant protection. This increases the risk of oil oxidation, leading to the old, stale ranch smell many customers complain about. Winco Ranch is a low-budget, starch-thickened oil dressing engineered for price, not flavor. Number 14. Save a Lot Ranch Dressing. Save-A-Lot Ranch is manufactured using ultra-high water formulation, where over half the bottle is water thickened with powerful gums. This gives the dressing a slick, jelly-like texture that feels nothing like real ranch. Because real dairy is expensive, Save-A-Lot uses dairy analog powders, which simulate buttermilk but leave a faint cardboard-like aftertaste due to their high heat processing. Herb character is produced through volatile herb extracts, not actual spices. These extracts evaporate quickly when the dressing hits warm foods, leaving behind a bland, oily base. To preserve extreme shelf life, Save-A-Lot uses robust acid plus benzoate preservative stacking, which keeps the product from spoiling but contributes to a harsh, slightly chemical tang. The dressing's cling comes from tight gum networks, which form a gelatinous coating, a major consumer complaint. In short, Save-A-Lot Ranch is a water-heavy, artificial flavor ranch replica with almost no true dairy character. Number 13. Clover Valley Ranch. Clover Valley Ranch is known to formulators as a stabilizer-dominant ranch because the majority of its creaminess comes from guar gum, xanthan, and cellulose gel, not dairy. These create a chewy, elastic thickness that feels almost unnatural when poured. The ranch flavor is built from acidified buttermilk simulants combined with onion garlic flavor esters. This makes the dressing taste strong but shallow, with no real complexity or richness. Dollar General's supply chain requires long shelf stability, so Clover Valley relies on heavy preservative loads and oil antioxidant systems to stop cheap soybean oil from going rancid. Herbs? Purely decorative. Their color comes from dehydrated parsley treated with UV light to inhibit microbial growth, washing out nearly all herbal aroma. Real flavor comes from synthetic herb aromatics, which create a fake, fresh dill smell but fade almost instantly. Clover Valley is one of the most artificially thickened, chemically flavored ranches in the budget category. Number 12. Family Dollar Ranch Dressing. Family Dollar Ranch is designed using an extreme budget technique called hyper-diluted emulsion structuring. This means more than half the dressing is water, thickened with industrial-strength gum networks, mainly xanthan, guar, and cellulose gel. These create a dense, almost rubber band elasticity, which customers often describe as sticky or slimy. Because real dairy is too expensive for this price tier, the tang comes from acid-reacted whey powder, a low-grade ingredient produced by rapidly dehydrating dairy under high heat. This destroys flavor, forcing the formula to rely on synthetic lactic volatiles that give a sharp but hollow sourness. Herb flavor isn't natural. It's delivered through perfumed dill aromatics engineered to smell fresh for the first 20 seconds, then fade into a bland, oily base. To survive dollar store shelf cycles, the dressing is loaded with multi-layer preservatives, chelators, and oxidation inhibitors that keep rancid notes hidden but contribute to a chemical bite. Family Dollar Ranch looks thick, but it's essentially a water-heavy, gum-thickened, synthetic ranch replica, not real dressing. Number 11. Dollar Tree Ranch. Farmhouse Ranch from Dollar Tree is one of the most aggressively engineered ranches in the discount category. It uses emulsion foaming, a process where air is whipped into the formula alongside gums to create fake volume. This makes the dressing look thicker than it truly is while giving a light but spongy texture when poured. Dairy notes come from ultra-low-grade buttermilk powders stabilized with anti-caking agents. These powders are so heavily processed that nearly all flavor is lost, leading manufacturers to add acid lactone bursts of chemical compounds that mimic fermented tang but leave a sharp, artificial sourness. Herb character is simulated using spray-on herb aromatic films, microscopic flavor coatings that dissolve instantly on food. Visible herbs, parsley flecks, they are added purely for appearance and carry almost zero taste. Because Dollar Tree products sit in non-refrigerated variable temperature storage, the formula is fortified with high-dose sorbates, benzoates, and EDTA, giving the dressing an overly preserved chemical edge. Number 10. Piggly Wiggly Ranch Dressing. Piggly Wiggly Ranch is built using a method called shear-pumped starch ranching, where high-speed mechanical pumps whip modified starches into a thick gel. This creates instant body, but leaves a chalky, pasty residue once the dressing cools. Its dairy profile relies on whey byproduct powders, leftovers from cheese manufacturing. These powders undergo heat treatment that kills delicate dairy enzymes, requiring the brand to add synthetic tang enhancers to restore flavor. The result is a ranch that tastes sour but flat, with no creamy depth. The herb component is extremely minimal. Instead, Flavor is driven by volatile herb reactor chemical aroma droplets designed to mimic fresh dill and chives. These smell convincing at first sniff, but break down rapidly, leaving a neutral, oily aftertaste. Piggly Wiggly also uses oxidation-resistant fat systems, meaning the oil is pre-treated with antioxidants to extend shelf life. While effective, these systems can cause an unusual plasticky mouthfeel that customers often notice. This dressing is a starch-pumped, aroma-enhanced oil blend, not a true ranch. Number 9. Raley's Ranch Dressing. Raley's Ranch is marketed as a step above budget brands, but insiders call it a controlled acid ranch because its tang comes primarily from a precise blend of citric acid, vinegar concentrate, and cultured flavor analogs, not real buttermilk. This creates a crisp but overly sharp acidity that masks the lack of dairy richness. The creamy body comes from oil phase structuring gums, which trap soybean oil inside gel-like webs. This gives Raley's its thick texture, but also contributes to a rubbery, coating sensation when used as a dip. Herb flavor is delivered through water-soluble herb extracts, not real spices. These extracts carry an initial aroma but fade instantly into bitterness after sitting on warm foods. Raley's opts for light, stable whiteners and anti-separation additives, ensuring the dressing stays bright and uniform for months, but at the cost of tasting flat, sterile, and processed. Despite its cleaner branding, Raley's Ranch is essentially a chemically acidified, gum-structured oil dressing, far from genuine ranch made with fresh dairy and herbs. Number 8. Fry's Food Store's Ranch Dressing. Fry's Ranch is built using what formulators call compressed emulsified base, a technique where a thin water-oil mixture is forced through high-pressure homogenizers, then thickened with cellulose gels to fake a creamy texture. This creates a dressing that pours smoothly but turns sticky and glue-like when chilled, one of the biggest customer complaints. The tangy note doesn't come from real cultured dairy. It's created using lactic acid simulators, chemical acidifiers designed to mimic fermented buttermilk. These provide quick sharpness but no richness, leaving the dressing tasting flat, sour, and shallow. Fry's herb flavor relies heavily on volatile dill aromatics that evaporate fast and leave behind almost no real herbal depth. Visible herb specks are purely decorative and add no flavor. Because Fry's relies on long interstate distribution chains, the ranch contains heavy oxidation protectors and multi-step preservatives, which extend shelf life but add a faint chemical metallic edge. Fry's may look creamy, but underneath, it's a high-pressure, gum-stabilized ranch substitute designed for stability, not taste. Number 7. Vaughn's Ranch Dressing. Vaughn's Ranch Dressing is produced through acid-stabilized oil emulsification, a method that allows them to use cheaper oils without flavor deterioration. The creamy mouthfeel comes from xanthan starch fusion systems, which create a thick body but leave a slimy, stretchy texture once refrigerated. The dairy flavor is constructed from heated whey solids and synthetic cultured volatiles because the company uses minimal real buttermilk. The heated whey develops a dull profile, forcing Vaughn's to compensate with vinegar lactic blends that give an overly sharp tang and a chemically sour finish. Herb presence is almost entirely artificial. The seasoning relies on dill ester aromatics, which give a burst of scent but fade instantly. The parsley flakes floating inside are UV sterilized color specks, not a flavor source. Because Vaughn's products must survive fluctuating warehouse temperatures, the formula uses thermal-resistant emulsifiers that prevent oil separation but create an unnatural, plastic-like coating on the palate. Vaughn's Ranch looks premium but behaves like a stabilizer-thickened, acid-driven oil dressing engineered for durability, not authenticity. Number 6. Pavilion's Ranch Dressing. Pavilion's Ranch follows a technique insiders call enhanced density ranching, where thickening agents do most of the work instead of dairy. The base relies heavily on high-viscosity modified food starch, which swells into a heavy, pudding-like gel that leaves a powdery, chalky finish. Its creamy tang is generated from acidified dairy analog powders, low-cost, spray-dried ingredients processed at high heat. These powders lose all nuanced flavor and instead produce a one-note sourness that customers often describe as sharp but empty. Herbs are present visually but deliver no true flavor. The actual herbal notes come from dill and chive aromatic compounds fermented in stabilizing oils. These compounds give a fleeting impression of freshness before disappearing into an oily aftertaste. For color stability, Pavilion's uses photoresistant whiteners, preventing yellowing but also making the dressing taste unnaturally sterile. The result is a dressing that looks thick and premium but is really a starch-heavy, flavor-simulated ranch construct, not a real buttermilk-based dressing. Number 5. Ralph's Ranch Dressing. Ralph's Ranch uses elastic emulsion engineering, a technique that combines gums with heated soybean oil to form a dense, elastic texture. This gives Ralph's its signature cling, but also a rubbery, almost stretchy consistency that feels artificial on vegetables. Buttermilk flavor is recreated using cultured flavor mimics, compounds designed to simulate fermentation without real dairy. These provide a sour pop but no depth, resulting in a ranch that tastes acidic, artificial, and short-lived. Herb flavors are achieved through encapsulated aromatic droplets, microcapsules loaded with synthetic dill and garlic that burst as you eat. But because they're designed for stability, the aftertaste becomes bitter and chemical once the droplets dissipate. Ralph's also uses multi-segment preservatives, needed because their dressings sit in long ambient storage cycles before cooling. These preservatives prevent spoilage but contribute to the chemical, slightly metallic back note that customers often notice. Ralph's Ranch may look thick and creamy, but it's essentially a gummed, oil-stabilized imitation ranch engineered for shelf survival rather than fresh flavor. Number 4. Fred Meyer Ranch Dressing. Fred Meyer Ranch is built using a process formulators called thermofused gum thickening, where multiple gums, xanthan, guar, and cellulose are heated with oil to create an extremely dense, sticky gel. This gel becomes the entire backbone of the dressing, giving it a heavy, paste-like consistency, even when spread thin. Because Fred Meyer uses minimal dairy, the tang comes from citric acid-boosted whey dust, a dehydrated byproduct that loses nearly all natural flavor during drying. To compensate, factories add synthetic cultured aromatics, which imitate buttermilk but leave a chemical, almost varnish-like aftertaste when the dressing warms on food. The herb flavor is added through steam-infused seasoning oils, not real dill or chives. These oils are highly volatile, meaning the aroma disappears quickly while the oily base remains. Long regional shipping requires aggressive oxidation blockers to prevent oil from going rancid, but these also create a faint metallic edge that many consumers notice. Number 3. Smart and Final First Street Ranch Dressing. First Street Ranch is known in the manufacturing world as a warehouse-stable ranch block, meaning it's engineered primarily for long-term storage and extreme temperature fluctuation. The dressing relies on gel-reinforced modified starch, which forms a tight pudding-like network. This gives the product thickness, but also causes the claggy, pasty texture that customers frequently complain about. The ranch flavor doesn't come from dairy. It's built from synthetic lactic acid complexes and enzyme-modified butter notes, chemical shortcuts used when real fermented dairy is absent. These ingredients create a tang that hits instantly, but then collapses into a sour, artificial aftertaste. The herbs are barely present. Actual taste is provided by herb flavor concentrate droplets, oil encapsulations used in low-cost dips and snack flavorings. These release aroma but leave a strange perfumed finish. Smart and Final also uses high-dose sorbate benzoate preservation, necessary for warehouse stability but notorious for creating a slightly burning acidic bite. This dressing is far from real ranch. It's a thickened, artificially flavored, longevity-designed formulation made to survive palates, not taste good. Number 2. Food for Less Ranch Dressing. Food for Less Ranch is produced using extreme value emulsion building, where more than half of the dressing is water disguised as creaminess through dual gum suspension systems. These gums inflate when hydrated, giving the illusion of richness but leaving a slippery, synthetic coating in the mouth. The dairy note is entirely artificial, made from lactate reactive powders that trigger acidity when mixed with oil, but leave no buttery depth. Many customers describe Food for Less Ranch as thin, sour, and chemical, which is exactly how acid-reactive powders behave. Herb flavor comes from semi-volatile flavor esters that are stabilized in oil, not actual dried herbs. These are cheap, stable, and artificially bright, creating a strong aroma but almost no real taste. Because the product must survive discount chain storage conditions, the formula uses over-fortified preservatives and chelators, which extend shelf life but create a nearly metallic, stinging tang at the back of the tongue. It may be cheap, but Food for Less Ranch is basically acidified water thickened with gum and sprayed with fake herb aroma. Number 1. Aldi Tuscan Garden Ranch. Tuscan Garden Ranch ranks as the worst ranch dressing because it embodies nearly every low-tier shortcut in the industry. The formula is built around maximum water loading, thickened with a brutal combination of xanthan, guar, cellulose, and pre-gel starch, forming an ultra-dense gel that feels rubbery, elastic, and artificially heavy. Its dairy flavor comes from aggressively spray-dried buttermilk analog powders, heated so intensely that they develop a cardboard-like profile. To fix this, Aldi adds acidic flavor precursors, chemicals that simulate buttery tang but leave a sharp chemical burn on the palate. Herbs are almost entirely cosmetic, tiny green flecks that offer no aroma. The real herb character comes from synthetic chive and dill aldehydes, which smell artificial and vanish instantly when mixed with warm foods. Because Aldi ships internationally and stores for long periods, Tuscan Garden relies on maximum preservative stacking sorbates, benzoates, and EDTA, creating a strongly processed, sour chemical finish. But don't worry, it's not all bad news. Some ranch dressing brands are actually clean, simple, and made with real ingredients, starting with number 10. Bolthouse Farms Classic Ranch. Bolthouse Farms Classic Ranch stands out because it's one of the few mass-available dressings made with real cultured buttermilk and yogurt, not powdered analogs. Instead of relying on synthetic gums to build thickness, Bolthouse uses the natural creaminess of yogurt proteins and gentle cold blending, giving it a smooth, dairy-driven body that feels clean and authentic. Unlike shelf-stable ranches, Bolthouse refrigerates from production to store shelf, meaning the product doesn't need benzoates, sorbates, or EDTA to prevent spoilage. This alone puts it in a completely different category: fresher, less processed, and closer to homemade ranch. Herb flavor comes from real chives, garlic, and parsley, not aroma-engineered herb esters. You can taste the difference immediately. The herbs don't smell sprayed on, they taste ground, bright, and green. Bolthouse also avoids the oxidized oil problem that plagues shelf brands. Their oils are protected through cold chain distribution rather than chemical antioxidants, giving the dressing a clean finish with no metallic edge. If you're looking for a ranch that tastes like real food instead of a stabilized emulsion, Bolthouse Farms is a safe, trustworthy pick. Number 9. Chosen Foods Avocado Oil Ranch. Chosen Foods Avocado Oil Ranch is one of the cleanest ranch dressings you can buy because it swaps industrial soybean, canola oils for 100% avocado oil, which naturally resists oxidation and doesn't need heavy preservatives. This gives the dressing a noticeably smooth, clean, buttery mouthfeel without the greasy film found in cheap ranches. The creaminess comes from real buttermilk and egg yolk emulsification, not gum-thickened starch networks. That means the texture feels light and genuine, not rubbery or gelatinous. Herbs are legitimate: parsley, dill, garlic, and cracked pepper. No synthetic herb aromatics, no volatile ester trickery. The flavor lingers naturally instead of vanishing after 2 seconds like gum-based ranches. Chosen Foods also avoids the acid-spiked tang of cheaper dressings. Their acidity comes from lemon juice and cultured dairy, giving a round, soft tang instead of the sharp chemical bite caused by artificial lactic enhancers. Number 8. Primal Kitchen Ranch. Primal Kitchen Ranch is a favorite among nutritionists because it's free from seed oils, gums, stabilizers, and artificial thickeners. The dressing gets its structure from real egg yolks and avocado oil, which emulsify naturally, creating a silky, balanced creaminess instead of the heavy, rubbery texture of processed ranch. The herbs are authentic organic parsley, dill, garlic, and chives, giving the dressing a garden-fresh aroma without relying on lab-created herb aldehydes or flavor capsules. The tanginess comes from organic vinegar and real lemon juice, not citric acid boosters. This gives Primal Kitchen a natural, refreshing acidity that doesn't linger as bitterness. It's also shelf-stable without preservatives, thanks to clean oil formulation and proper bottling conditions rather than chemical preservatives. If your priority is a ranch dressing that tastes clean, relies on real ingredients, and avoids industrial shortcuts entirely, Primal Kitchen is one of the safest and most transparent choices available. Number 7. Tessame's Organic Ranch. Tessame's Organic Ranch is one of the cleanest ranch dressings on the market because the formula relies entirely on whole food ingredients, not industrial stabilizers. Instead of xanthan gum or modified starch, Tessame's creates texture using real egg yolk emulsification. This culinary technique produces a naturally creamy body without the slimy cling found in shelf-stable ranches. Their herbs are unprocessed, real dill, garlic, mustard, and cracked pepper, giving the dressing an earthy, kitchen-made flavor, instead of the perfume-like herb esters used in cheap ranches. The acidity comes from organic lemon juice and apple cider vinegar, both of which create a bright tang without chemical bite. Because the dressing is refrigerated from production to delivery, it does not require benzoates, sorbates, or EDTA. The oil is another standout. Organic, high-oleic sunflower oil, which naturally resists oxidation and doesn't leave a heavy residue. Tessemae's tastes like a ranch you'd make at home, not a lab-engineered emulsion, making it an extremely safe choice for anyone avoiding synthetic additives. Number 6. Sir Kensington's Classic Ranch. Sir Kensington's Classic Ranch sets itself apart by using real cultured dairy and egg yolks, instead of the heated, spray-dried powders found in conventional ranch dressings. The result is a creamy, buttery mouthfeel that comes from actual food, not artificial gum networks. The herbs are carefully sourced: real parsley, dill, chives, and garlic, all added in their natural form. There are no dehydrated herb dusts or volatile herb compounds to fake aroma. Instead of industrial preservatives, Sir Kensington's uses vinegar-based preservation, a natural and centuries-old technique that gently stabilizes flavor without chemical burn or metallic aftertaste. One of the biggest strengths is its fat source, sunflower oil, which has a cleaner flavor profile and fewer oxidation issues than cheap soybean oil. The tang is subtle and natural, created through cultured dairy rather than citric acid boosters. Number 5. Good Foods Plant-Based Ranch. Good Foods Plant-Based Ranch is one of the only vegan ranch dressings built on real vegetables and cashew cream, not industrial starch thickeners. Its creamy body comes from blended cashews rather than factory gums, giving it a smooth, naturally rich texture that avoids the gelatinous feel of cheap plant-based dressings. The tangy flavor is created using apple cider vinegar and lemon juice, not synthetic lactic acid analogs. This keeps the acidity round and clean instead of sharp or chemical. Herb aroma is fully natural: real dill, garlic, black pepper, and onion without herb esters or aroma capsules. Good Foods also avoids seed oils altogether. The dressing relies on avocado oil and the natural fats from cashews, both of which resist oxidation and create a buttery finish with no metallic note. Because this dressing is refrigerated and minimally processed, it contains no benzoates, sorbates, gums, titanium dioxide, or shelf-extending chemical stabilizers. If you want a plant-based ranch that tastes real and is actually built from whole ingredients, Good Foods is one of the safest options on shelves. Number 4. Mother Raw Vegan Ranch. Mother Raw Vegan Ranch is built entirely on cold-pressed, unprocessed ingredients, making it one of the cleanest vegan ranches available. Instead of relying on food gums, the dressing gets its texture from cold-blended sunflower seeds, which produce a creamy, velvety base without artificial thickeners. The acidity is natural and gentle, coming from organic apple cider vinegar and lemon juice, which create a tangy lift without the artificial bite of lactic simulators found in processed dressings. Herbs are fresh and real organic parsley, garlic, onion, and dill, added raw to preserve aroma. No spray-dried herb powders, no chemical herb volatiles. Because Mother Raw never heat pasteurizes their dressings, the oils remain in their natural state, avoiding the oxidized aftertaste that plagues shelf-stable ranches. It's also completely free from preservatives, allergens, dairy analog powders, gums, and seed oils. Mother Raw is the closest you'll get to a raw, plant-based homemade ranch, making it exceptionally safe, especially for clean eaters. Number 3. Hillary's Plant-Based Ranch. Hillary's Plant-Based Ranch is unique because it avoids every major allergen, dairy, soy, nuts, gluten, and still manages to create real ranch flavor without relying on artificial systems. The creaminess comes from aquafaba and millet flour, which create a naturally light, whipped texture without gels or gums. Herb flavor comes from real parsley, chives, garlic, and lemon, not synthetic herb compounds. You can taste the herbal brightness because the formula avoids the heavy oils that mute flavor in cheaper vegan ranches. Its tang is produced through fermented vinegar and lemon, giving it a more natural ranch acidity rather than the sharp chemical tang found in low-quality plant-based dressings. Instead of processed seed oils, Hillary's uses high oleic sunflower oil, which stays stable and clean-tasting even after refrigeration. Because it's made for sensitive eaters, the product contains no preservatives, no gums, no fillers, no starch stabilizers, and no hidden additives. Number 2. Thrive Market Organic Ranch. Thrive Market Organic Ranch earns its spot near the top because it avoids every cheap shortcut used in commercial ranch dressing. Instead of building texture with industrial gums or pre-gel starch, Thrive uses real buttermilk, egg yolk, and organic spices, allowing the dressing to thicken naturally through classic emulsification. This gives it a silky, dairy-forward creaminess without the gluey or stretchy consistency common in shelf-stable brands. Their acidity is clean and layered, coming from organic distilled vinegar and lemon juice, not chemically boosted lactic acids. This creates a tang that tastes gentle and rounded, never sharp or synthetic. Herbs are genuinely aromatic. Organic dill, garlic, mustard seed, parsley, and black pepper, all added in naturally dried form rather than lab-synthesized herb volatiles. The aroma lingers because the seasoning isn't chemically lifted, it's real spice. Thrive also uses high oleic sunflower oil, a stable, clean-tasting oil that resists oxidation and avoids the rancid metallic notes found in soybean oil. With no gums, no preservatives, no artificial flavors, and no seed oil sludge, Thrive. Number 1. Yo Mama's Gourmet Ranch. Yo Mama's Gourmet Ranch takes the number 1 spot because it delivers a level of purity almost impossible to find in modern dressings. The base isn't gum thickened or starch reinforced. It's created from real egg yolks, slow-whipped avocado oil, and cultured buttermilk, forming a naturally velvety emulsion that feels like high-end homemade ranch. Where cheap ranch brands rely on synthetic herb aldehydes for aroma, Yo Mama's uses fresh ground herbs: dill, parsley, garlic, chives, mustard seed, and cracked pepper. These give the dressing a living, vibrant herbal profile that doesn't fade after a few seconds. It actually blooms as it warms on food. The acidity comes exclusively from real lemon juice and aged vinegar, meaning no citric acid boosters, no lactic simulators, no chemical tang. This keeps the flavor clean, bright, and refreshingly natural. There are 0 preservatives, 0 gums, 0 fillers, 0 powdered dairy analogs, and 0 seed oils. Everything in the bottle is an ingredient you could keep in your own kitchen. Yo Mama's doesn't taste like commercial ranch at all. It tastes like premium, chef-made ranch with real dairy, fresh herbs, and a clean, buttery finish. This is the safest, purest ranch dressing you can buy.